Hello friends, welcome to JavaScript Masterclass, and the topic of today's lecture is loops and more. So let's begin. Loops. So what do you mean by loops? Loops are used when we want to repeat action. So if you want a piece of code to repeat a number of times, then you have two options. Either you have to write the same piece of code that number of times, or we use loops in that situation where you just write the code once and it will run the number of times you want it, right? So loops are a way to repeat the same code multiple of times. So let's see how it works and what are the different types of loops we have. Things we will cover in the lecture. First, while loop. Second is do while loop. Third is for loop. These three are the three variations of the loop. The working is pretty much the same, but all these three have different syntax and different pros and cons. We will see each of the loop in the following sections. Then the fourth topic is break the loop, which is not a loop, but it is a technique to come out of the loop whenever we want to. And fifth is continue the loop. It is just another version or lighter version of break, where we don't come out of the loop, but we just skip the particular iteration. And a very important thing to know about what is an iteration in connection to loops. So iteration means, if suppose you want to run a piece of code for 10 times, then each time when the loop runs, it is known as an iteration. So what happens in continue is that it stops a particular iteration and moves to the next iteration. Okay, so let's go and see the syntax of the while loop. The while loop has this following syntax. We'll see the while keyword, which says that it is a while loop. The starting of the while loop is from here. Then inside the parenthesis we have the condition. Condition is nothing but just a boolean expression which evaluates to be true or false, or if it has any other value. So what happens if it is true, the condition is true, or if it evaluates to a non-zero value, then this code will run. Otherwise, if the condition is false or it evaluates to 0, this code will not run. For example, 1 is less than 2. It is a true boolean expression, right? So this condition becomes true and the code will run. If the sum of two numbers is 0, for example 1 minus 1 is 0, then this condition will become 0 and this code will not run. So this thing is very important to keep in mind. The condition needs to be true or a non-zero number for this code to execute. If it is false or a 0, then it won't execute. Curly braces not required for a single line. These curly braces are required when you have more than one line of code to be written inside while. For single line you don't need it. For example, here while I is less than 3, this is a boolean expression. Alert I minus minus. So alert I minus minus is just in one line, so we don't need curly braces. And here you can see the condition I is less than 3 means whatever the value of I, it should be less than 3. If it is greater than 3, then while won't work. This alert won't show. Okay. Note, code will not run if condition fails. I have told you earlier, code needs to be true or a non-zero number for this code to work. Okay, now let's see a coding example and you will understand it better. Now we will see a coding example and I will explain you how the while loop works. Okay, so let's write the file code while_loop.html. This is going to be my file where I will show you how the while works. I'm writing in Visual Studio Code, that's my code. Okay, so here I will write the basic HTML first, and within the script tag I will include the coding part of this JavaScript. So just watch it out. doc type HTML, and inside that HTML tag, then body tag, the script tag, and now we will write the code. So let me tell you what the code will be. The code is to find the sum of the first 10 numbers, like from 1 to 10, the sum of the first 10 numbers, and I have to print it using an alert. Yeah. So create a while loop to count the sum of 1 to 10. Okay, so this is the code will be the while loop example that I'm going to show you. Okay, so now I have to show the sum. So there needs to be a variable where the sum value will be stored, right? So we need a variable to hold sum. So we define the variable let sum equals to 0 and initialize it with 0, right? We define the variable, initialize it with 0. So this is going to be our variable to hold the sum of the numbers. Okay, now we will start the while, but before that the condition thing needs to be worried about. So what will be our condition? Condition should be that the numbers, it should stop working when the value of I becomes 10 or 11 maximum, because we need to go from 1 to 10 only. Right, so I have defined a variable I and initialize it with a value of 0. Now the condition will be the value of I should be less than 11 or should be less than or equals to 10. These are the two conditions you can use. I'm going to use I is less than 11. So until that the condition should be true and there should be a sum. Okay, now inside the while loop I will write the sum. The sum is equals to the value of sum plus the value of I. This is how you do the basic sum. 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus then 3 is 6, 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 15. So this is how you add the previous numbers, make the sum of the previous numbers and add it with the next number. This is how we are going to do it here. Sum is equals to sum plus I, then I plus plus, to increment the value of I by 1. Okay, so let I equals to 1 the initial value, the condition is I is less than 10, then we will do the sum and then increment the value of I. So I will save the code, and now as I have told you, we need to show the alert of sum. So this is alert sum. Okay, so this is our basic code for while loop and how it works, and let's see how it's running. So loop is a section, code section, while underscore loop.html. This is my file. If I double click on it, we'll open the browser. Yeah, now 55, this is the sum. Okay, so this is what's going to be the sum of the first 10 numbers. So now suppose what we have to do if there was no loop. Then you have to manually add it. Sum is equals to sum plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 to 10. So look at the length, it would become the headache. Or what if you want this whole loop of 100 numbers, then it would be tough, much more tougher, right? So this is for the while loop. Now we will go to the do while loop and see how it works. Our next loop is do while loop. It is just another version of while loop where we run the code first, then we check the condition. So this is how the loop works. The do keyword and the while keyword are used. At the starting the do the code section, right from this curly braces to the next curly braces runs, and then we check the condition using the while, and if it is true, again the next iteration starts. So each loop, each time it runs is known as iteration, I have told you. So first iteration is free, it will run whether the condition is true or false, and for the second iteration we need the conditions to be true. So what is the big difference you have seen? In while the condition needs to be true to start the iteration, but in do the first iteration will take place whatever the condition is. So this is very important to note. The condition checks moves below the loop body. Here you can see the condition checks loops below the loop body. An important note is code will run at least once. This is very much true because the first code will run and then the checking happens. But in while loop, the checking needs to be done right at this first step and then the code will run. Okay, let's see a coding example of do while and you will understand how it works. Now we will see an example of do while loop. So again, code do_while.html. This is how we are going to start the coding in Visual Studio. Okay, it should come up here. Okay, this is do_while.html. Now what we have to do is we have to go do the basic HTML tag, HTML coding that we are doing. So we have to add that, like doc type HTML, then HTML tag, then the body tag, and under it the script tag. So this will work like this. Now under the script tag we are going to add the code for do while. Okay, this is an example of do while loop, so we will write it in the comment section so that it is easy for us to remember. So if you're writing this code out, to pause and write this code, otherwise you can find all the codes in my GitHub link, in my GitHub, and the link for that is given in the description box. So kindly do check it and go to the page and get all the codes there. Okay, so again the sum, like in while there is a sum and I equals to 1. This is the initial basic starting point. We pretty much the same that we have done in the while loop. The sum is equals to sum plus I plus plus. This is quite the same. Now the while conditions here. Condition is again it should be I is less than 10 or less than equals to 10 or I is less than 11. Okay, so this is what the basic code should look like. And again alert section, alert will give us the sum. Okay, now so let's see the condition, what will happen if I is less than 10. So many must be thinking that it will reach the point very soon, but this is not going to be the case. Look, it's 45. So only for the first condition that it is checked and it is delayed. For all others it is the same as the while. Now this is 55. Okay, so now I will show you that do will come into loop or existence. It will run on at least for once it will run. I'm going to show you in the next code. Okay, so this is working fine. 55 for I is less than 11. So the condition is only works for the first time that the problem is there, otherwise it is the same as while loop. Okay, fine. Now it's time to show you that why the code will run at least once in do while. Now I have written the condition I is greater than 2. So for all the condition where I is greater than 2, it will run. But I have defined I equals to 1. So if you see the condition I is less than 1, so I equals to 1 and 1 is greater than 2, which is a false condition. So if we have written in while, it would have been written running, but in the do while it is running. It will run. So let's see. Okay, so I will refresh it. Yeah, it is showing the first output. When I click OK, it's gone. So in do, code will run at least once.